All right, now we're going to walk through a case study that Georgia put together. Thank you for that, Georgia.
My pleasure.
So I'm just going to walk through the results and what we're seeing on this structural balance table. Again, go to your notes. I'm not going to read through this entire thing. I'm just going to point out the things that stand out to me, and then I'll pass it over to Georgia. So number one, the thing that I notice is that the deadlift says 22%, and that's in amber. So what that means is that the deadlift is too strong. Okay, so we're comparing the deadlift to the back squat. So goal there is 125% of the back squat, and we are way over on the deadlift. So for context, this person back squats 200 pounds, and they deadlift 295 pounds. All right, that's the first thing that stands out to me. The next thing that stands out is the rear foot elevated split squat. So we're at negative 7% there. So that's red. So my eyes are just drawn to that thing. I'm like, okay, we must get stronger in the rear foot elevated split squat. That's at 37 pounds per hand. The goal, well, you could walk through the goal as you walk through priorities there.
Sounds good.
And then the next two things that stand out are pushing for this person. So I see another red with the strict press. That's negative 18%. So that's 18% lower than we wanted, and that's at 85 pounds as a result. And then also the seated dumbbell overhead press, 6 rep max. That's at 35 pounds per hand, and that is 6% lower than we would want to see it. You want to kind of walk through, interpret that, and give us some priorities based on that?
Absolutely. So let's pay attention to the red first, right? That's a good place for a coach's eye to go immediately when you're thinking about priorities in design. These things are under, we probably want to pay attention to them. So the really obvious first one is that rear foot elevated split squat. It's at minus 7%. The client is able to do 37 pounds per hand, and they're at a body weight of 138 pounds. So they're not super far off, but we do want to see that nudged up a few pounds to bring them to be able to do 33% of their body weight per hand or per dumbbell. I don't have the math like right in front of my head right now of what 33% of the of 138 body weight would be, but I'll let you guys do that.
Oh, yes.
Are you gonna try and do some mental math right now?
Yeah, keep going, and I'll do some. Well, I'll hit
Or you'll use your calculator.
Command space bar.
So that is going to be number one. And then number two, the second place that my eye is really drawn to is I'm looking at that strict press and then the seated dumbbell overhead press. So here we have a strength endurance and then a max contraction test of pushing strength. The seated dumbbell overhead press, again, it's not super under where it needs to be, minus 6%, but it is still in the red. And we want to see it's going to be 29% per hand of their close grip bench press. So there's a little bit of an imbalance between that horizontal and then that vertical push pattern that is happening there. So we again want to see that one nudged up a couple of pounds. And then secondarily, that strict press at that minus 18%. So they're able to do 85 pounds. With our strict press 1RM, we're comparing that to our weighted pull-up 1RM, and we want it to be at 65% of that weighted pull-up. Currently, that weighted pull-up is sitting at 178 pounds. So that's going to be body weight plus external load. So again, we're going to want to nudge that one up almost 20%, so considerably.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
45 pounds.
45 pounds. Okay,
yeah,
there we go.
138 body weight, you said?
Yeah, 138.
Yeah, 45 pounds.
Perfect. So we got 8 pounds that we need to add to the rear foot elevated split squat, which sounds doable. So we have a few priorities: strict press, seated dumbbell overhead press. So to me, that's just vertical pushing as a whole, specifically with that barbell, and then that rear foot elevated split squat. And then the last thing that my eye is drawn to as a coach is that 22% number on the deadlift. So they have a strong deadlift when we're comparing it to the back squat. Typically, we want to see a deadlift that's about 125% of someone's back squat, and we're significantly over that with our percentage here, 22% over. Now, we were having a little conversation about this prior to starting. It's not necessarily bad for someone to be strong in their deadlift, so long as relative to body weight, they've hit the back squat test that we want them to be able to do. That said, looking at this client, knowing that they are weak in the quads and just knowing a little bit about them personally and where their squat sits relative to their deadlift and some of the reasons around why that squat is weaker than the deadlift, I know that they're going to want to bring that squat up. And it's just, we talked about this in the intro too, Carl. Sometimes having specific goals are nice to have to guide the program design. And you know what? Sometimes it's fun to go after a new back squat 1RM for a client in the right time and the right place. So I've also decided that the back squat is going to be a priority to bring up in program design too. So those are our priorities.